I'm live. Good morning. No, actually, well, it's late morning, early afternoon. I am reading out of Winged Pharaoh. It is one of Joan Grants' far memory books, so they're her own memory. It was her first book, which was published in 1937. Joan Grant passed in 1989, and I'm reading this book. I'm at chapter 6 of the second part of this book. She is a young girl here, Sakita, and she has a brother called Nea. Death of Atet. When I was 11, Kham was invaded by Sadok, king of Zuma, who had come as a guest with treachery in his heart to learn the past of our country and our strength in war. His men are yellow-skinned and bearded, their skins greasy, for they eat of unclean food. Their bodies are coarse and hairy, fat as a white sow heavy with young, and they know much of evil. They had a horde of dead slaves who had been tortured so that in their dying they could be enslaved away from earth and obey their dark masters. These slaves attack those of us who in sleep watched over our country. But this availed them not, and from the temple news was brought that the Zumas were upon our northeastern frontier, in the narrow land between the two waters. The northern garrison challenged them, but our chariots were few, for our horses came from Zuma, who would trade us only stallions, and the chariots of Zadok mowed us down as corn falls to the sickle of the harvester. Then the Zumas poured into our country like a destroying torrent. The fields were laid in waste, and the people of the villages fled from their homes, and they that fled not were engulfed in pain. 5 times the royal army under Pharaoh battered against the wall of the invader. Zadok would be driven back, and then more troops would swell the ranks that we had thinned, until the Zuma seemed like a wounded leopard that slinks back to lick its wounds, only to launch forth a fiercer fury. Then all the men of Kham who could hold a spear or swing a mace were called in to the standard by my father, and the women of the land yoked the oxen and furrowed the fields. They set the bird snares and cast the fishing net, so that the warriors should not know hunger, and when they returned they should find no famine. For 5 months the wings of destruction shadowed Kham, and then it was decided that the whole strength of Kham should be thrown against Zadok in one mighty battle. If he triumphed, then would our country be in darkness, and the light of our temples would gutter like a candle in the wind. The day came when all our forces were arrayed against the Zumas, and behind the invader was the sea. News was brought from the temple that the battle had been joined. That night, Kham would know victory or defeat. I wish I had been born a son to follow my father like Nea to battle, or that I were a priest that my spirit could be there. Even to know defeat would be better than this suspense. Time passed so slowly, each moment seemed like a drop of icy water falling upon my forehead. Then I remembered that sometimes when looking on bright water I had seen visions, vivid, as in a true dream. I went to the garden and knelt beside the pool, and I prayed to Ptah of his compassion to clear my eyes. The last rays of the sun were falling on the surface of the water, as on a dark shield. I looked at the light. I could see great armies in conflict. I could see horses plunging, crushing many beneath their hoofs who were not yet beyond their pain. I saw a man whose entrails tripped him as he tried to fight, and another with a spear sticking from his mouth. I knew that the air was singing with the flights of arrows from Nea's archers, and that there was a great noise, a screaming of stallions, and the shouting and groans of men. Yet I saw only the picture, and all was quiet. The picture changed. I saw the chariot of Pharaoh leading the thundering charge. Like the prow of a boat, he cleaved the Suma line, and it parted before him like the waves of a storm. Our warriors swept onwards, with the Sumer host fleeing before them. Now they could retreat no further, for behind them was the sea. But we drove them on until they were engulfed by the waters, even as the rain engulfed the evil ones of the old land. This was no war of people against people, but of light against darkness, and to the shadow we show no clemency. Then I saw my father's chariot. His standard of the scarlet feather was planted beside it, but it was empty. Again the scene changed. I saw my father. He was smiling, strange. I heard his voice. He said, "My daughter, tell your mother that, knowing victory, my body died from a spear, and my spirit left it like a wild bird freed from the snare of the fowler. Tell her to sleep early tonight, so that we may walk to here together, for I have much to say to her. Tell her to grieve, not at my freedom, but to share it with me. Tell her that she but steps from her sleeping body to my arms. And to Nea, say this: much of rulership have I taught him upon earth, and much will I teach him away from earth. Tell him to listen to wisdom, whether it be from the lips of an old man or a young hound boy, for it is not earthly work or earthly years that give speech that is fruitful to the ear. Tell him to rule as I have tried to rule, sharing his strength with the weak until they become strong, sharing his courage with the frightened ones until they become brave, sharing his honesty with thieving ones until they become true. Tell him to try to be to his people as his own master is to him. And to you, my daughter, I say this: when you are 12, go to the temple of Atet, and learn to be one who can say unto the people, I, of my own knowledge, tell you that this is the truth. Then, when your speech is proven, return and help your brother to guide his people, even as your mother and your father together have guided them. Wow, that was a short chapter. So, her father Atet, the Pharaoh, passed over during a battle against the Zuma tribe, the cruel ones. Next one is Funeral of the Pharaoh, chapter 8 of the second part of this book. Have a lovely Tuesday. It is the 16th of May 2023.